Just
Yeah.
briefly your name and
Yeah.
then your connection to this place.
All right. My name is Michael Anderson.
Yeah,
My tribal name is Gilla,
yeah,
and I'm one of the founders, the original founders. There
yeah,
were four of us.
yeah.
There was myself, Michael Anderson, Billy Craigie, Tony Curry,
Mm,
Bertie Williams.
yeah,
These are the four guys who came down here and helped me put this up. We all put it up together,
mm, mm,
and from that day onwards, I think a lot of people were scared of what might happen.
yeah,
When we got here, to our surprise, we were prepared for a fight on
mm,
the very first day,
yeah,
but that didn't eventuate. And of course, we have put this on the world stage, the fact that Aboriginal people are here,
mm,
and the world media paid a lot of attention to it
yeah,
and picked up on it. And yeah, for the first time, we were able to put our issues on the world stage
mhm,
and say that there's so many outstanding things. And unfortunately, we're still going through a process to try and convince the public and the politicians
mhm,
to go through a process of truth-telling, and that's about the massacres. Um, I remind people of a story called Antigone,
mhm,
and the story basically is the hatred and the bitterness that they had towards the people that they killed, and left them on the ground for the sun and the birds and the animals to eat their flesh. And where I come from, we have bones still laying on the ground
yeah,
of my ancestors, and we know exactly where they are.
yeah,
And that I talked to the Governor of New South Wales. His name was David Hurley, who's now the Governor General of Australia.
mhm,
I talked to him back in 2000, I think 2018, 2019,
mhm,
when he was the Governor of New South Wales.
yeah,
And I made the point to him that at Government House, because we had a private audience together,
mhm,
and I made the point to him that until you help us bury our dead,
yeah,
we have nothing to reconcile.
mhm,
So don't talk to us about
yeah,
reconciliation.
yeah,
Yeah.
mm,
And so and that goes for many nations across this country.
mhm,
And so we're really focusing on that. And this embassy, I think, is a s- this embassy is a stark reminder of
yeah,
business undone,
yeah,
left undone. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. So it's the 50th anniversary, and we're looking forward to the event. It's a long time for a protest to be going. It's only been down in that 50 years for 20 years. And then they came back on the 30th anniversary, and that's when they re-established the embassy in 1992, I think it was. And of course, it's been there's been a permanent fixture here since then, and we've had various people watching it and looking after it. And yeah, it's still here. The greatest thing about the embassy is its silence.
yeah,
The fact is, it's a constant reminder of unfinished business, and that silence sort of is deafening for the politicians here. It's classified as an eyesore for many of them,
mhm,
but it's a constant reminder that the people haven't given up, and
mhm,
that it's a sign of resistance. We never let them come in here onto this country ever. Um, and have a free access to it. We've always resisted from day one.
yeah,
And so this embassy here and the fact that we're now 50 years on is a constant reminder of that opposition.
mhm,
And so we don't let anybody become complacent with the fact that Aborigines are given up. No way.
mhm,
We haven't given up. This is our country.
mhm,
Um, there's no treaties in place. There are no cession documents. There are no acquiescences.
yeah,
And so we're pretty unique in the
mhm,
sense that not only are we the oldest culture and living people on the earth,
mhm,
but we're one of the groups very different from the rest of the British colonies
mhm,
around the world, where um, they just treated us as flora and fauna.
mhm,
And so, yeah, but they realise now that this flora and fauna actually talks, and that and that yeah, we think for ourselves, and we have a lot of things to do, and we will make those decisions now,
mhm.
and we'll lead that way. Yeah,
Yeah. One of the key issues is the land issue. So,
yeah, land
yeah,
rights.
yeah,
Yeah,
land rights.
yeah.
So, need
Well,
some
land rights.
explanation.
One of the things about land rights. Um, we went through this whole process, and in Northern Territory, the Labor government, when they got
Yeah,
into power, Gough
yeah,
Whitlam, he was true to his word. What we asked him for here, and that was to make sure that we get land rights. So the Commonwealth government could only deal with Commonwealth land and territories like the ACT, Jervis Bay, and Northern Territory. But they had the power, and Gough Whitlam introduced legislation up here to introduce the Land Rights Act in the Northern Territory. And so they sacked him before he could finish, but Malcolm Fraser carried it on, and they got land rights in Northern Territory by way of legislation. He was negotiating with states, of course, to talk about land rights. South Australia, Mr Dunstan gave us land rights, gave the people there, the Anangu, land rights under the South Australian Land Rights Act 1983. New South Wales, the same thing in 1983. They gave Aboriginal people land and turned the land council into place, but that, you know, we only got back 3,000 hectares of former reserve lands when they illegally took 33,000 hectares of land that was originally designated. So they validated that theft. So they wasn't even kind enough to give us back the whole of the old missions because they'd already given it to non-Aboriginal people. Now we have native title, of course, and native title does nothing for us. And native title is very difficult to deal with simply because of the fact that we have a government arrangement and agreements where there's consent determination. But the problem we got though is that when they get that native title determination, we've been checking out the records. And so when they give Aboriginal land rights under native title, when you look at the state records to see whose names are on that land, it's called USL. And USL means unused state land. So not even the traditional owner's name, after they get determination, their names are not on those title deeds. No.
So it's each state have the different policy?
No, they are all the same.
All the same?
All the same. Whether you're in Queensland, New South Wales, or Victoria, or Western Australia. The fact is that all that land title does not, it's not in the name of the Aboriginal people, no.
So now the land right, so what's the most...
Land rights is still the struggle. Land rights, and the other thing is the allodial title as well, because, you know, we're arguing that the Crown never got the land offers properly, and so they didn't get that allodial title, so from, you know, the stars to the centre of the earth, they haven't got that. And the High Court actually says that as well. But, you know, the states just ignore it. And so it's up to us to now progress those arguments, because we're, you know, everybody here now is very educated and has a bit more understanding, and we'll be talking about that over at the Albert Hall on the 27th. And so we're going to go through this whole concept of decolonisation. What is colonisation? How do we decolonise? And we do have a number of ambassadors coming to listen, so it's basically listening to what we want. And so this is now, the next step is, where do we go from here? And that's our decision, and that's something we're going to talk about in terms of the being self-determined.
Is there any key phrase or key word for the 50th anniversary? There's a 40th anniversary for sovereignty or...
Well, it's still sovereignty and land rights. It's still sovereignty and land rights. Sovereignty has never been ceded. This time, though, we're saying that Aboriginal law is the law of the land. It's not Western. It is not the common law of England. And that's what we're saying to people, is that this is not a land that's owned by the British. It's still our land. And unfortunately, for the Australian government, in a parliamentary report on the constitutional affairs to the Parliament here in 1983, they acknowledge themselves in their own thing by way of an admission against their own interests, where they say they are in fact an occupying state. So they admit it in their own parliament here and in their own documents. So the battle is on.
So finally, one word about this 10th embassy. 10th embassy has been 50 years, and then it's one of the, as you said, one of the hub. Working as a hub for all the Aboriginal people.
That's correct, and it represents, you know, it represents more than just one thing. It represents the you know, the poverty, the theft of the land, the fact that Britain occupies this land. You know, this law, the sovereignty of this nation belongs to the Queen of England, not the people of Australia. and just read the Australian Constitution.
Yeah.
It'll tell you that. So we are the owners of this land, and so the embassy is just that. It's a symbol of that ownership. Yeah, and that we've never acquiesced. We have never given up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good on you, mate.